Right, Jim, welcome to Handpan Voices. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Phil. Thanks for having me.
Or should we call you Lo-Fi Presti from now
Yeah,
on?
I'm maybe that'll be my reinventing my artist name. Jim Lo Presti, formerly known as Jim Lo Presti, now known as Jim Lo-Fi.
I love it. I
I'll
love
see
it.
what direction the music goes into. I don't know.
Once you start seeing it, you can't stop seeing it. Like because I see low, just see lo-fi. I can't. That's what my brain associates with. But it's a
I was
great,
actually considered the original J Lo. Just
of
saying.
course,
Eh,
you are the original J Lo.
Back I was J Lo before J Lo was J Lo. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So we're here talking about the handpan, which we both love. Uh,
Yeah.
but you seem to have a musical background that goes right back to when you were a little boy. Tell me about what sparked your interest in music, and why did you
Yeah.
learn the accordion as your first instrument?
I was fortunate enough to have parents that were just enjoyed music, listening to music, not necessarily musicians. So I grew up with a lot of different kind of music in the house, everything from uh, African drumming to hooked on classics. So I was hearing a lot of different kinds of music. The accordion was because I grew up in a Italian community, and
Right.
there was actually my neighbors, and it was great because at that time you're going back to this late, mid late 70s,
Hmm.
and this community was like a community. People were visiting houses all the time, bringing vegetables over.
Yeah.
It was great, something that I actually really cherish and miss. But I heard all the boys in this family next door played the accordion,
All right.
and I didn't know what it was, but I would hear it, and I'd be outside playing kickball. And said, what is that like haunting? Almost the same way that handpan attracted me. It was this haunting sound.
Yeah.
So what the heck is that? Little did I know it was maybe not the coolest of instruments. It's a beautiful instrument, but as I got older, it wasn't as cool, especially growing up in the '80s when metal music came into my life. But I just investigated. I asked them questions, and I said, "Mom, I want to play the accordion." She said, "Oh, okay." And that was it. There was a studio not far from my neighborhood, with teachers, and I started taking lessons. My mom drove me every week to take accordion lessons. That was my first dive into becoming a musician. It just kind of That's where it
Yeah.
all started. Yeah.
Then you said you dabbled with the piano as well. So picked up the chords and the notes, and did you start playing those notes on the piano as well?
Yeah,
A
I
little
think
bit.
it was having the accordion, left-handed buttons, right-handed
Yeah.
keys, and wanting to kind of balance out the feel of that with both hands. And I think at one point we got an organ in the house, so that kind of sparked my interest in playing keyboard. And then I took
Yeah.
piano lessons, which I did not stick with, but I had enough dexterity and exercise on my accordion that I could play a tune.
Yeah.
My knowledge is super limited with theory. At one point, it was decent, but I didn't keep up with the practice of theory and stuff. But I did play the piano. I could sit down now and play a couple tunes.
Nice.
So yeah, it was awesome.
And you just touched on it a moment ago. You then become a teenager, and it's all about being cool and looking cool. And you're probably the music, like you said, was influencing you that was happening around at that time in the 80s.
Yeah,
Did that coincide with you learning the drums, picking up the drums, switching over
a-
to the drums?
absolutely. I was
Yeah.
probably 12, 13. I'm still playing accordion,
Yeah.
and luckily my mom was good. I mean, she was pretty not hard on me, but if the kids were outside playing kickball, I couldn't go out until I did my half hour, 45 minutes of practice every day, which is great. And I'm thankful for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But by the time 13 comes and the changes start happening and the new music is coming into play, and I'm
Yeah.
noticing girls a little more, the accordion was like, eh. So
Yeah.
I, it was definitely school band. It was kind of like, uh, what do you want to play? Who's going to play what? And I was like, drums. So it
Yeah.
started in the school band, probably maybe around sixth grade. I can't really, sixth or seventh grade. So I was in the school band playing drums, and then eventually decided to get back to some sort of lessons, which was drum lessons. So now my mom was bringing me to drum lessons instead of accordion lessons.
Yeah. That's interesting that you had this melodic background and then you went percussive with the drums. It seems like the best possible setup to find or be into tongue drums and handpans, right? What was your first encounter with the steel tongue drums, and what caught your eye about them?
It was that desire to, as I was playing drums, find more obscure instruments, like I mentioned to you. So as I got introduced to, other percussion instruments, bongos, and I would search for stuff that I wanted to own to play. And then, the internet changed everything for everyone, obviously. So it was like
Yeah.
something would pop up accidentally. What the heck what is that? So, and the tongue drum was one of those things that actually led me to, a lot of YouTube videos, handpan videos. And that just was like, that grabbed me. I think probably the first videos were like Hang Massive. I know for a lot of people they were already kind of established, and yeah, I
Yep.
mean, I was like, whoa, this is really cool. And it was like, they're in these like exotic lands, and I was like, whoa, it made it that much more interesting to me.
Yeah.
Probably a draw to that like almost spiritual aspect of the music being played in this big open land, So then I was like, what the heck is this thing? And then after doing, this was probably like 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
And then I search. I could barely find handpan builders in the States. I mean, there was a handful, at least through my research. I was having a tough time. Most of the sites were like, it wasn't like you could go on and it would tell you like, here's a handpan, this is how much it is. So I had to dig deeper. I was like, I have no idea how to get a hold of one of these things. I have no idea
Right.
how much they cost. Then when I discovered how much they did cost, I had to put it on the back burner. So
Yeah.
so I found myself going back to investigating tongue drums because I could find some that were within something that I could afford. And the first ones I owned were from Gouda Drum from the Ukraine. And I think I just, even still, they were, still it was, I had to save some money to get one. And I said, I'm going to treat myself. It was probably a late night purchase.
Yeah.
I
Online
was, and
purchase.
I was like, they're actually really beautiful. They had a lot of etchings on them, and it caught, as an artist, they caught my eye. And I said, I'm going to treat myself. And I was like, they're coming from the Ukraine. That's so wild. I don't know much about the Ukraine. And I said, well, I'm doing it. I'm treating myself. I'm crossing fingers that it shows up because you never know, So
Yeah.
I make the purchase. Gouda Drum was so awesome to deal with. They were in contact with me with emails, getting the drum ready. In a
Great.
couple weeks, it was in my hands, and that was it. I started playing the tongue drum, and I started that this started to coincide with the pandemic as I was playing more, and that's
Okay.
what pushed me to start putting content out. I mean, I had been in bands, I wasn't gigging, I was going nuts. I wanted to make music, I wanted to connect with people, so I started putting videos out. And then there was no one in my area playing handpan, tongue drum, let alone handpan. So I just put videos out. People would ask me. Everyone was home, locked
Yeah.
up, and like, I need something. I heard this thing you were playing. It was relaxing. Got any more?
So the infamous COVID-19 year, the lockdown year across the
Yeah,
world, it was bonkers. And then you got your first handpan finally the year after many years of probably looking at
yeah,
it.
I did. It
Tell
was
me about that story.
it was just the draw. I love the sound of the tongue drum, but I just kept coming back to these videos. They were just haunting me, and I loved them.
Right.
So I just kept researching and digging deeper, and I found Isthmus
Yeah.
instruments,
Yeah.
Jenny Robinson. Something about the site, the way the site was, the look of the handpans, because they were like the nitrided, that blue and purple kind of.
Yeah.
Something about the look of it attracted me. Um, I liked everything about it. I looked into her a little bit and her background. I read whatever was on the website, and that was it. I actually so I ordered my first drum from her,
Hmm.
and that was like, it's getting built, and I was like, oh man, I was so anxious. In the meantime, I did get an Amazon pan. I was like just impatient, and I
Yeah.
said, let me buy another scale and I'll see. And I actually I lucked out from all the experiences you'll hear about, um,
Yeah.
more mass produced handpans and stuff. It was in tune. So I get this drum, and I'm into it. I'm like, wow, this is great. In the meantime, I'm waiting for the Isthmus pan to come.
Yeah.
This Isthmus pan comes into my life, and then I have these two next to each other, and I go, oh, this is a really beautifully quality built handpan. Should sound like. So that turned me on to um, the idea of paying attention to build independent builders, and it was just the HIPAA pan. I picked it up, and right away I felt the difference between my Amazon
Oh yeah.
handpan. So that was my, and I still play that handpan, the Isthmus, in all my gigs. I go back to it. It's a C sharp mystic, something about it. It's an 8 note. I'm so connected to it. I love the sound of it. I love what I can do with it. It's more of a percussive pan because it's nitrided, so you can kind of get down on it. It's just really beautiful. I love it.
How did you make the decision to get that particular scale in as the first one?
Just just listening to the videos on the website and
Okay.
whatever, just the
Yeah.
same thing I do with listening to music, whatever
Yeah.
hits me in the heart, whatever grabs me.
Yeah.
Even my knowledge of the way that scales were set up was minimal. It still is. It's strictly by a
How they make you
sensation
feel. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
grabs me. So that one grabbed me.
Yeah. I did exactly the same with a Meridian Handpan, the F2 low pygmy. I watched Marketta, who's Duncan's partner,
Yeah,
who's the main maker, and played it beautifully, and I watching. Couldn't stop
yeah,
watching the video,
oh
listening to
yeah,
it and listening to it. Really well, high with quality recordings, and you just fall in love. That you just, like you said, straight away you've got that connection with that sound or those
yeah,
notes, and it's the one. That's weird, isn't it? But
yeah.
nice at the same time.
And Meridian, that was another Amy Naylor. She turned me on to Meridian,
Yeah,
and that was just a whole world of. I couldn't understand how the pans were built so well when I got my first Meridian. I looked at it.
yeah,
I was like, I couldn't see any hammer marks. It was just so beautifully built.
yeah.
And then I think the first one I got was, darn, I'm not sure. I don't know if it was stainless. It's something with a more of a longer sustain. So then it was like, I had this nitrided one, and then
Yeah,
this one with longer sustain. So it was the best of both worlds. And yeah,
definitely.
just beautiful tone. I think it might have been, shoot, I don't remember.
Yeah.
But
Let's
it
talk.
was. But now I have like three of them. I think three Meridians.
Oh, you're nice. Let's talk about Amy. Obviously, we both have
Yeah,
been influenced by her.
yeah.
She's an exceptional player and an exceptional teacher. Tell me about your conversations with her. How did you meet her, and how did she influence your mindset as a handpan player?
Actually, I actually created a podcast myself, and I had a line of, I still do a line of clothing that I created, t-shirts and accessories, and as a I created this podcast that it had like a positive message to on the clothing and stuff, and I was
Yeah,
reaching out to all different kinds of people, just what they were doing to kind of get through the pandemic,
hmm
artists, bakers, nurses, everything, and I would chat about how they were getting through the pandemic. So I said, "Oh, my buddy and I were doing it." I said, I've been watching this woman online, Amy Naylor. She's a handpan player. I'd been playing for a little bit. I said, "We got to get her on. We got to chat with her." So that was the first time we had a long conversation about the handpan. That's when she turned me on to Meridian Handpans.
Right.
And then from there, I just kept in touch with Amy. And she eventually, she was like, "I'm going to be in the States. Is Boston near you?" And I was like, "It's close enough." And she was doing a really cool gig at this bar of all things, like with the handpan. And she was doing a thing with a friend that was a DJ. It was the Entangled Mind stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, "How cool is that?" So my buddy and I trekked up to Boston. That was the first time I met Amy, and she was just as down to earth and cool. Really great human in person, and that's it. We just stayed in touch.
So did that experience then, we just touched on it maybe, did that inspire you to get involved with electronics, using electronics for your handpan music and your production from that moment, you think?
A little before. I think the thing that pushed me was I always appreciated electronic music, but the bringing the looper into
Yeah.
my music was a direct result of the pandemic, because like I said, I was playing in bands, and now it was like I wasn't gigging, and I missed making music, building layers with different instruments, but there was no one to do it with. So I said, "Oh, I can do it all myself. I'll get a looper."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's kind of how it started. And then I was doing a lot of rhythm beats with the handpan. It was acoustic stuff. I would record shakers and bongos and congas, and then I just started to experiment with my electronic drum set, and then eventually I got a Leslie's multi-strike pad, which had some loops in it that were more electronic based beats, and I said, "Ooh, I love this combination." Then I discovered Dan Mulqueen, and he was already doing stuff like that. He had these cool like lo-fi beats, and I was like, "Whoa!" Definitely seeing Amy perform with the Entangled Mind, the DJ, was just another affirmation that I was like, "Yeah, I want to do this electronic stuff. It's super cool." So it definitely helped.
Dan Mulqueen's sound is so good, isn't it? When he
combines, he's an animal.
Some amazing videos that he's done with just very subtle sub bass and pads and stuff like that. So
amazing,
so good, for sure. Now, you've obviously been influenced by music throughout your whole of your life, but the handpan is also associated with the wellness space and making people feel relaxed and calm. Is this something that you stumbled upon, like me, or have you been involved in the meditation and wellness space as in your adult life in some capacity before?
Yeah, I definitely my first draw to Eastern philosophy was the art. As an artist, I was drawn to a lot of Tanka paintings and particularly Tibetan masks and carvings, and I'm a tattoo artist. I don't know if we ever talked about that, or you probably seen.
Sorry, I should have brought that up. Yeah, I noticed you are.
But it was like I was using this imagery for references to create tattoos that people would ask for, and at some point I decided it was a good idea to educate myself a little more about what it was I was drawing, and that brought me to an interest in Buddhism, and then actually diving deeper and and becoming part of a community in New Haven, not far from me, where I joined Sangha and started meditating and doing certain yoga practices within really old lineage of Tibetan Buddhism. So yeah, that was my intro to meditation and mindfulness.
Hmm.
And I just so discovering the handpan and playing it and almost feeling the same experience that I would when I meditated as I played. I was like, wow, this is another form of meditation, you know. And
Right.
I would lose myself in my man cave for hours, playing and then putting short videos out and having people really respond to that, where they wanted more because, you know, it was a stressful time. They would scroll at night and find, you know, Jim Lo-Fi playing a you know, short video and say, man, I was listening to this thing last night. You're playing on the tongue drum or handpan, and I was like really relaxed, and I drifted off into sleep. Do you have any more music like that? So I found it as this meditative aid. Uh, so
So you were doing the videos, Jim, and you thought it'd be quite nice to do this in real life, right? With people in your area. How did you go around setting that up?
so I had a friend that was doing that owned a yoga studio. I had a little knowledge about yoga, not much. All I knew is that at certain kinds of yoga, there would be music playing, recorded
Yeah.
music. She was doing a yin yoga series, which is really long poses
Yeah.
and not much talking to the group. And I said, you know, I said, I have this idea. Maybe I can play live behind the your session. And she's like, yeah, bring some tongue drum and handpan in, and let me see how I connect to it. And I said, okay, that's great. So I brought a couple handpans, and I said, this is one of my favorites. And I played, and she really connected. She said, well, these are beautiful. So
Yeah.
we set up I think it was like maybe like a 3-month series that people could sign up for. Yin yoga. Uh, I played, I played, and we jived really well. She would get them into position, and I would just kind of feed off of her as she stopped talking. I would play a little louder, and she would talk and move poses, and I would back off. But it went over really well, and people were like, "This was beautiful. It was such a enhancement to the practice that I just had." So, wow, that's great. That ended, and I had a great experience. It felt fulfilling, and it felt like, you know, giving something back. So I went to another yoga studio and I said, hey, I did this thing. I want to see if you would be interested too. They they were so enamored with the handpans. They said, we would love for you to join the team. We want you to be a sound bath practitioner. And
Wow.
I said, a what? I said, I don't have any experience. I don't have any certification or training. I do come from, you know, I studied Tibetan Buddhism for a long time, and I bring the mindfulness practice into my playing
Right.
intuitively. They were like, don't worry about it, you know. So I sat with one of the directors there, the yoga studio manager, who was a practitioner as well, and she kind of clued me in on basics of leading a sound bath class or session, and that was it. After, you know, I did the first one and got it out of my system, each one they started to shape themselves from intuitively playing. Always come for me personally, it always came back to mindfulness practice and breathing,
Right.
and if they just shape themselves, and here it is. I've been doing those for over 3 years now in different studios all over the state. So it's just like it happened, and I was like, well, I have one today, later today, and I'm like, wow, this is fun.
and my experience is so far with the sound baths, they all seem to be like single tone crystal bowls, small bells,
Yeah,
chimes, gongs, making these very simplistic, very single notes. So how do you
yeah.
incorporate the handpan, which is a little bit more rhythmic? Is it to do with the breath work that you mentioned there, the breath work that you use, the rhythms to help
So
people breathe?
I think that's, I think that was one thing about Amy and her tutorial stuff on online on YouTube. Because I would go back to a lot of the ones she would post about playing in the in a meditative sense, and it was about slowing down and simplifying. And there is there's a fine line for me with playing the handpan in a sound bath, and because typically, like you mentioned, you'll find that a sound bath would be really steady with bowls,
Yeah,
gongs. The idea is to really not to attach to a beat or a rhythm.
yeah,
I find a middle ground personally because of mantra, because of what I was taught in Tibetan Buddhism and meditation and mantra is very repetitive. And the idea of it is to, from what I understand, is to get rid of the other noise in our minds. So you have this om mani padme om mani padme om mani padme. It's
yeah.
repetitive, and it's to clear to just have that, and it almost becomes an om,
Uh-huh.
so you're back to the
Yeah.
bowl in a sense. So I find a middle ground with, and I don't do. It's a big difference between me playing a solo handpan show in a coffee shop than doing a sound bath. So
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
conscious of that. I'm not. It's not
Uh-huh.
entertainment really, but I will bring some um, more melodic stuff into a sound bath, and I still utilize a combination of the handpans, gong. Um, I only own one crystal bowl, and I don't bring it out that much, to be honest with you. But I do use electronics. That has become my crystal bowl in a sense, because it's a
Right.
constant drone. So I pick a bass note that fits the handpan or tongue drum that I choose, so that they jive really beautifully. So
Nice.
it's a nice ambient sound. I can play softly to it. I have shakers and other. I put nature sounds into my looper that come up, and it just, for
Nice.
me, it's more of a journey in the than a bath, I guess I could say.
Do you talk as well? So you do the mantras and you guide the people as well
I
with actual spoken word
the
and stuff?
only talking I do is about 10 minutes in certain studios in the beginning to settle people in. So it's just more like, let's start to relax our bodies, relax our hands, take a couple of deep breaths, and then by the time I start playing, which, like I said, maybe after 10 minutes of just settling people into the space, I don't talk again. I just play, and then the end, I just kind of bring people back with let's do some small movements and stuff, very simple. There's a couple of studios that have asked me to do like an open discussion afterwards, just to kind of, I guess, check in with people, see
Yeah.
how everyone's feeling and stuff.
It's fascinating stuff. And long may you
Yeah,
continue to do it, Jim. I'm sure you're bringing lots of peace and happiness to lots of people in your local area.
yeah, trying.
What about your local area? Jacksonville, you have a gathering called the
Yeah.
Pan Marco Gathering, right?
Okay, yeah. So well, that's Jacksonville is quite a ways away from me, but
Oh, okay.
I've been going down there for a couple years now. So the Pan Marco handpan gathering is John Gwinta's kind of brainchild. It's been a couple years now. I've been to a good amount of them. I'm not sure where he's at with how many years, but I think, just from discovering people online and seeing the posts about this one, it seemed like a feasible thing for me to be able to bring, uh, to be able to drive to. I was like,
Okay.
I'm gonna drive there, and it's from Connecticut to Florida is over 1,000 miles. So, but I wanted to bring my
Gosh.
handpans.
You drove 1,000 miles.
I've been doing that for a couple of years. So I
What?
went down. The first time I went down, I had been making friends online with handpan community, and in particular people that live down there that I just for whatever reason connected with, stayed in touch with. And I walked into this gathering, and it was like I had no, they were like friends I saw last week or something. You know, they were like Jim Lo Presti. I was like, oh my god, like I think I
Ah,
know you sort of, and they were like, no, one of the first people I met was Debbie, that handpan lady,
yeah,
Debbie.
yeah.
And it was like she just grabbed me and like, they're gonna start the performance soon. Let's go watch it. Come on, let's go grab a seat. Like we were old
Nice.
friends, and it was amazing. Like so that made me want to go back and get to know everyone even more. And from there, I became more involved with vending, performing, and then most recent one I did do a workshop. I did a workshop on looping, electronic looping.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So was that the first time that you got to play alongside other handpan players? Was it at
Yeah.
that Pan Rifle gathering?
Shoot, was it? Yeah, definitely. Yeah. A matter of fact, actually, so after the first gathering I did, which Amy was there, Rosie was there. Aside from like a little jamming outside, which I was completely nervous about because it was all so new, and it was all my handpan heroes were there. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I I got to know John, the organizer, a little bit better, and he actually invited me down. And I had been playing locally in the coffee houses and stuff around here and posting videos, and I guess he was interested in what I was doing. And he actually invited me down before the next gathering to a house, really incredible house performance with 5 or 6 performers. And that was the first time I was like in a performance with other handpan players, and I was just like, whoa. It was I played the night before with Parker, is that his last name? Horsch. And we played in one of the cathedrals in Jacksonville, and then the next day we went and did this house party with more performers, and I was just kind of like in like overdrive, like, oh, I'm like, what am I doing here? This is amazing. So yeah, it was incredible. Like that first experience just blew my mind. It was so warm and
Yeah.
inviting, and made some really strong connections in that performance with handpan players. It was beautiful.
Oh, that sounds amazing, Jim. That sounds
Yeah.
great. When you find your tribe like that, and you spent all that time traveling there, I bet did you feel a bit anxious on the way down? You were going a long way, weren't you, to get down there?
When I was younger, I used to do these trips all the time, and I hadn't done it in so long, and it was just I I had this renewed sense of adventure, and just like I just want to do what I want to do, and I want to live and
Yeah.
experience stuff. And I was like, I always rationalize. I say, I could. It's what 20 hours to get to Florida. I've spent 12 hours on the couch on a snowy, wintry
Yeah.
day. And I said, I could sit in my truck for that long. I can do, I break it up into 2 days. And I said,
Yeah.
it's in this grand scheme of things, it's the blink of an eye to get down there. So that was my rationalization. I was nervous, but
Uh,
there's a meditative aspect of being on the road that
yeah.
long, and
Yeah.
which I love. It's you just get to this almost like a runner's high where you're just in the mode of getting there. And I got good audiobooks and music, and next
Yeah.
thing you know, I'm pulling into my Airbnb in Jacksonville.
But it's a long way, and you sound like you've got the right mindset to do it. But maybe something you thought, I could do this myself. Maybe I should try and do something a little bit closer to home.
Yeah.
Spirit Voices.
Their voices. Yeah.
Tell me about the name, the concept, and when you started doing Spirit Voices.
So Sarah, I gotta say, Sarah Paz High, she was very instrumental in making putting she's great for putting a lot of ideas in my head, and she's always doing something which I totally admire. And she's got a lot of great ideas. So
Right.
small things we would just bounce off of each other. And she was doing a lot of traveling. She still does. So she said, I think the timing of where she was traveling, she's like, I'm going to be in the area around this time. and if you want to do something. I saw, oh wow, this is cool. Okay, so I started looking at the timeline of her travel, and then I had done some work with the Milford Arts Council, which is a couple towns away from me, and it was a historic art show dedicated to tattooing.
Right.
The director approached me. I put the show together. It was a real successful opening, and at the closing, there were 3 nights that the closing, my band played, and we closed. She wanted my band to play, which was Earth Passenger, which is handpans and bass and guitar.
Oh, cool.
So we closed out the art show. It was really cool. And then I just said, man, the space is amazing. And I just was like, this is the perfect, from my experience of going to other gatherings, I was like, this is the perfect venue for a full-on handpan show, acoustics, setting, everything. I said, this is awesome. So I just kept kind of poking her. I said, if you'd like to do something again in the future, and a month or two would go by, and I said, hey, if you'd like to do something in the future.
Yeah.
So she was open to it, and that started the ball rolling. And then it was, I told Sarah, I said, hey, I can have access to this venue. The Milford Arts Council is into the idea. What do you think? And she's like, yes. She's like, and I think Amy's traveling. She might be around the same time, in the States at the same time. I was like, oh wow, okay.
Brilliant.
I had befriended Ricky Hilson, and and he's fairly close to me. He's in Massachusetts. It's only not too far from me, and I had been up to visit him once before. So I reached out to Ricky, and he was up for anything, which was great. He's like, yeah, count me in. It sounds great. Dan Mulqueen was a total shot in the dark, because again, just as my adventurous spirit to jump in a car and say, I'm going to drive to Florida, who cares? I'm doing this. I don't know what to expect. It was just a simple message to Dan. I said, I'm asking him. I don't care if he's in another country right now touring. I'm asking. And Dan got back and said, you know what? I don't think I have anything going on. This sounds great. And I was like, so we formed a group on Facebook and started chatting, and I just started getting all the logistics in place, and that's what happened. At one point, when it finally came up to the show, talk about nerves and stuff.
Yeah,
I was in the green room in the bottom of the venue, and I was pacing, and we're getting ready to start, and we had the order of who was going to play, and these guys are jamming a little, and I'm walking around, and Amy's like, you doing okay, Jim? You doing okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm okay. And I just stopped, and I looked at everyone, and I said, I know that I asked all of you to do this, but I didn't think you were going to say yes. And here we are, and they were cracking up, and probably one of them, it was a high point in my handpan playing thus far. Just amazing. Incredible.
You shared the stage with all of them, right? Right at the end, you did a whole song together. Is that right?
Yeah, which is amazing, because that song that Amy's song, I Thank You, is really what drew me back to her again and again and again. I heard her play that song on YouTube, and there's something about it. It was almost like it had this good groove, so it gave me this different idea of the handpan. It wasn't just slow meditative stuff and ethereal, and it was like it had a good groove, and I said, yeah, you can do this on this instrument. And when I had her on my podcast at that time, I was like, can you please play I Thank You? So when we did the show, I said, Amy, I know I'm going to ask you, I would love to close it out with I Thank You. And she was, of course, into it, which was beautiful. So we had a little quick jam session in the green room, just a run through with everyone, and like, yeah, sounds great, let's do this. So it was awesome, like so beautiful.
Let my head down, get it all out, listen to the sound of everyone singing, I am what I am because of you, and I'll surrender to the sound that channels through.
we have an opportunity to bring it back with the same venue, and
Right.
it's all a matter of timing and everyone's schedules, and if it were to happen, I would say late summer or fall or something. And I hope it does. If it's meant to be, it will. And it was a hard thing to top, but I think it was such a good jump off for this area with the handpan, because no one had ever experienced anything like this before anywhere in Connecticut.
Yeah.
It was just completely brand new, this magical instrument inside this venue and these incredible players. So I didn't know what to expect when I was promoting it and setting it up. And I got to a night or two before, and the director of the venue was like, there's about 10 tickets left for this thing. I said, really? Then it was a couple hours went by, and she said, well, you did it, Jim. You just sold out this show. And I was like,
wow, well done.
So that's
Very
my
good.
how do I top that? I don't know. Just keep rolling with it. I mean, I think like I said, the interest in that show and the handpan from that show has been so rewarding, because people reached out afterwards that wanted to get into playing handpan, and I thought that was awesome.
It must have helped your feeling of community and being a part of something bigger, though, being part of this handpan community online and offline, though, right?
Yeah.
Has it helped you feel a little bit more a part of something?
Absolutely. Yeah. One thing, as a tattoo artist, I've been tattooing for almost 30 years, and there were conventions, like a lot of trade type things, or same kind of thing, gatherings, conventions, and then watching for me being in it that long, you see a lot of changes. COVID did change that socializing and community aspect, so I was having a struggle with that within the tattoo community, and I kind of withdrew a little bit. I was burnt, and I was kind of backing off tattooing anyway, to be honest with you, and getting back to music. So yeah, I mean, discovering that there were, in other parts of the United States, there was big interest in handpan and gatherings, and like, whoa. And I have yet to get to so many that I want to get to, but yeah, it was like the warmest, most inviting. People were so willing to share playing techniques, or I tell Amy, I call it nerding out. You just want to nerd out on the handpan, and it's like I love that. I love to be able to do that, and so that made me want to put back into other aspects of my life, just the experience with the handpan community. And I said, this is what it's about. This is what music is about. Art, creativity is about the connection with other human beings. So that's why I feel strongly about the sound baths. It's not about me playing for people. It's about an opportunity for people to come together. And it can happen in so many different things. Art and music, for me, it works, but I know it's in other aspects too of life. But it all comes back to that connection to human beings, because it's so washed out lately and disconnected. So if it can happen with a metal UFO, let's do it.
Well, it's been lovely talking to you, Jim. I really appreciate your time. It's been fascinating. And
thank you so much, man.
Thank you for joining me on Handpan Voices.
Yeah, this was awesome. I really appreciate it.